Well, I'm about to try to get this nut undone, and I tried a crescent wrench. That's definitely not going to fit in there. But I went through my toolbox, and I keep all kinds of old wrenches for tools and stuff like that. I'm not sure what tool this is off of. Currently this is a 32 mil opening. I'm just going to hit up Google and see if I can get an exact size that I need, and I am going to take an angle grinder, and if I got to take 6 mil off this and make it a 36 mil wrench, that's what I'm going to do, and we'll see how that works. It's got, I don't know, probably an 8-inch handle on it, so it looks like it's got plenty of handle to get a little bit of torque. The ones you buy in the store actually are only 3 inches long, so they're about this long, and they'll have a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 square hole right here, and you have to attach it to a ratchet. So getting a ratchet in there is still going to be pretty tight. You can buy the proper size wrenches that look just like this with a long handle as well. I looked them up. They're about $80 for a set of 5. It comes with that ranges from 32 mil to 65 mil. It'll have 5 wrenches, so it'll have 2 or 3 of these with a long handle and a couple shorties with different sizes on both ends with a 1/2 inch drive hole in the middle. Very useful, but being that I'm only going to use it for this one thing right now, maybe need it again in the future, I'm really hoping I can just make it fit. So I'm going to get some exact measurements and put it together and see if I can make this fit. Just got off the grinder. I didn't use a angle grinder. What I ended up doing is using my bench grinder very carefully. So it was 32 mil. I found out I needed 36 mil, so I took it just a hair over 36 mil. But what I did is I took this wrench, and while my grinder was on, obviously, I just ground a little bit here, and then brought it over and ground a little bit here. And I did it slowly, or I didn't run it through the grinder slowly. It was more like just like that. Push it in, take a little bit off, let it cool. Take a little bit off, take a little bit off, and let it cool. Reason is you never, when you're grinding any steel like this, or any steel, you don't want to see any discoloration. So like there's a little tick there of brown. That's where the metal starts overheating, and when your metal starts overheating, it loses its strength. This black part in the middle is just some of the original paint that didn't get ground off. The sides got ground off from the front edge of the wheel hitting it. But if you put it in and you put some weight on it and you just keep grinding and grinding and grinding right here on the same side, that's going to turn the blue brown and blue and purple, and you're going to lose all the strength in your steel. Once you overheat it, you're losing all the strength. This isn't a thick piece of metal, it's maybe an 1/8 thick. And we're going to be putting some torque on it. I definitely got to put a bar on it to get this thing to bend or take this nut off. But yeah, so it worked out well. I just kept going back over to the engine here, and every once in a while, take a couple swipes on the thing, take a test fit, and it fits. So I'm going to grab a snipe and put it on the end, a short snipe, but wide snipe. Put it on the end and see if I can get this nut loose. And I remembered what this was from. It was from an old Ryobi work site table saw that I used to have. I had it for a number of years. I sold it at a garage sale 5 years ago. But like I said, I keep all kinds of different wrenches and stuff. When I'm changing table saw blades, I usually use a box end wrench instead of these crappy ones that come with it. They tend to strip the nut, round the nut off, and I usually don't keep these, or I don't use them further on a table saw. But I keep them, and now I've found a use for it, so hopefully it works. So the wrench works, fits perfectly, but I wanted to put a snipe on the end. Before I show you what's there was a circle or a round hole in the end, very much like that, and just for hanging it up. Anyway, I wanted to put a snipe on. I could have flattened the pipe down to give me the room that I needed, but the larger pipes kept hitting everything. I didn't really feel like hammering a heavier gauge steel pipe down flat for the next 30-40 minutes. So went over to the vise and I made this 1/2 inch hole, or expanded on the 1/2 inch round hole that was in it already. So stuck it in the vise, took a 3-sided small file. I think it's about a 3/16. Let's see, maybe a 1/4 inch size file with 3 sides. And the round hole, I just filed that side out flat, turned it 30 degrees, filed that corner flat, moved it over, and did this all the way around. Then I have a larger file. I stuck it in and just filed the center of it, so everything ended up being square, and ended up with a decently square hole. It's not 100% perfect, but it's good. And I took a lesson from the ones I saw in the pictures from the store and that attach to your ratchet. So now I have a 1/2 inch hole, and if I turn it, I can be able to put some torque on it. So we're gonna stick that back into the onto the fan and see if that works. Okay, so here's how it worked. I got the bolt loosened, or the nut loosened already, but so the wrench on the end of the 1/2 inch socket wrench, and I was turning this like so, and this guy right here, this is like a it's an oil filter wrench for large equipment, and the only reason I have that is I got a garage sale for like 25 cents. I'm like, don't know what I'll use it for. I don't have any vehicles that have like a 3-inch plus oil filter. This is massive, but I don't. But it happens to fit that pulley wheel pretty good, and so it's power to my light. I did scratch up the edge of the pulley just a bit, but what I did is I made sure I didn't put it where the belt wears. I'm going to take some sandpaper, and if there's any burrs and stuff, I will get rid of those, and I'll also check it for roundness, make sure I didn't crush it or anything like that. If for some reason I did, I'll just order another one, unfortunately, but they're like $5, and but I have a feeling it'll be fine. I'll just clean it all up. But whatever you use on here, you can use ratcheting pliers with a chain on it. You can put a piece of rubber down first, but whatever you do, don't mark up the silver area. That's where your belt rides. You want that to stay nice and smooth, or else that's going to destroy your belt really fast. So that's why I'm going to go over it afterwards. Once I get everything out, I'll take this off. It's only held on with four little bolts. You can just kind of see the edge of them right there. And there. I'll take those off, pop that cap off, make sure everything's good. It's got to come off anyway because the water pump's right behind it. And make sure everything's 100% before I put it back. But again, so my what I used for that was my converted table saw wrench, where I made it out to 36 mil. Made a 1/2 inch hole on the end, put my 1/2 inch ratchet on the end, and use that for torque, and a large oil filter wrench. Smaller ones for regular vehicles, personal vehicles will probably work, maybe set to the largest setting. It might work, but this one just happened to work. Also, the leverage of the big handles was handy. I do have some other ones for my personal vehicles. The handles are only about this long. You need to be able to put a lot of pressure on that. And it probably took about, I'd say, 60 pounds of pressure to get that undone. And it's a left-handed thread, so you're pushing it that way, just to be sure, so that you don't end up tightening it more than it already is. So once you've got that nut loosened, or the fan blade loosened, it's just a matter of holding this back part and spinning this guy right off. Just make sure the fan blade's spinning and not the clutch in the front, and then it falls to the ground. But anyway, that's what happens when you only use one hand. And so you want to make sure those threads stay nice and clean. You can undo those 4 bolts there, pop that cap off, and get that out of the way so I can get towards a little bit easier access into these bolts for the water pump. One thing I did notice on the fan, I probably might go pick it up at Pick and Pull or order another one. This isn't from any of the on installation, but I noticed as I was turning it, there's this crack here. I'm not going to risk it and have that blade blow off while I'm on the road. So I just want to get a new fan. It's nothing to install while it's off here. You uninstall it, you take off the 4 bolts off the clutch, pop the fan off, throw a new one on, you're good to go. Might as well do that now, because it's going to make a heck of a noise if this fan blade's missing, and it's going to vibrate a lot while you're out on the road, and you're not going to make it very far. That's going to cause other ripple effects and maybe destroy something. Big thing though, you want to protect these threads in here, make sure they stay clean. I'm going to probably put some painter's tape over this end and some painter's tape over the threads on there, just so that nothing happens to them. Everything with things like this, when you go to reinstall it, if it takes more force than just spinning it on, then there's something in the way. You should never have to force these parts on initially until you have to tighten them. If you do, there's something else wrong. And the last thing you want to do is cross thread anything on here. So just some 2-inch wide painter's tape. Put it over the threaded end on there. Go over here and stuck it right on the opening for the thread on that, and that'll keep the debris out. Oh, look at that. Didn't even stay. Anyway, this is going to be sitting on the workbench. I'm not going to be handling it too much right now, so that's just to keep any debris from popping out while I'm working around.